All right. Hello and welcome everyone to the fall 2025 NCL season and NCL 101. Today we're going to go over everything that you need to know about NCL for this season. With me today here, we've got Jen and Kiwi from our challenge development team. So we're going to do a quick overview about the full season and then dive into some tips and tricks and suggestions as you prepare for the fall season, and we'll end with all of your burning questions. All right, so quick agenda here. We're going to go over the season timeline, go over the NCL categories, the scouting report, what existing resources we have for you to help prepare, and those reminders and tips for first-time players. So if you're watching this live or after we've posted the video, the gymnasium is open. So that's the practice environment where we have step-by-step guides on how to solve different challenges. This is a great way to help prepare you for the competition. This is available the entire season. So from now all the way till December 12th. It's actually open during the individual and the team games. And the practice game for that matter. So a cool thing that can happen is if you are stuck on one of the easier challenges in one of those games, you might be able to go back in the gym and find some resources that kind of give you some assistance with solving that challenge. So it's a good way for you to keep learning even during the game. Now we have the practice game October 13th through 19th. This is a week-long event. This is going to be some past challenges from a previous season. We don't have the guides there to give you kind of that experience of solving the challenges in the real world. But you are allowed to collaborate with your classmates, your teammates. And so it's a good, way to practice. Then we've got the individual game, October 24th through the 26th. Now, unlike the practice game, individual game, you have to do that by yourself. It's meant to be a solo activity because at the end of it, you will get your scouting report, which should be representative of your skill set. And, to make sure that we're keeping it all fair, you've got to play solo for that one. After the individual game, you're more than welcome to go and debrief with your friends. We'll also host a debrief on Discord. But during the game, that really needs to be kind of your individual activity. Now, we do want you to be able to develop skills working together as a team. And so we have the team game November 7th through the 9th. And you can compete in teams of up to 7 and solve as many challenges as you can. The structure of the individual and the team game, they're identical, but with a new set of challenges. And the team game typically has a little bit harder challenges to really take advantage of the fact that you've got more heads together on the team. So you can probably work on some harder challenges. And so that's a great way for you to collaborate. Just be very cognizant. Individual game is for you to do solo, and team game you can do it solo if you would like, but obviously it's more fun, and you'll probably get a lot more progress if you work together as a team. Now for the topics within NCL, we have our standard 9 categories: open source intelligence, cryptography, password cracking, log analysis, scanning, enumeration exploitation, network traffic analysis, forensics, and web application security. So this covers the gamut between kind of red team activities and blue team activities. And so if you are uncertain yet of what specific subject within cybersecurity you're interested in, or what career you want to have after you graduate, going through these different categories and kind of just poking around and trying different things is a good way to figure out what you might be naturally good at and what you might be interested in. Now, if you do have something in mind for, say, you want to be a SOC analyst, you can specifically focus on categories of particular interest. Maybe log analysis and network traffic analysis might be some good topics for you to take a look at. All of these categories you can kind of do independently of each other. There aren't kind of like any blockers that prevent you, like prerequisites that prevent you from going to the next challenge. So I always recommend that people kind of bounce back and forth when they get stuck, because otherwise you're not going to take full advantage of all the different challenges that are available to you. And at the end of the competition, you are going to get these scouting reports, which I mentioned earlier. So this is kind of what makes NCL a little bit special, is that at the end of the season, you're going to get this report. It's a PDF document that you can download a copy of it. You can share it with recruiters and hiring managers when you go and apply for jobs. And it highlights the specific skills that you demonstrated as you participated within NCL. And so this is a screenshot of just the log analysis in the module from this sample document here. And you can see that on the right side, we have the different nice work roles. So the different types of jobs that this category might be applicable to. And if you are, for example, looking to be a SOC analyst, that would kind of be under here as like a cyber defense forensics analyst or a data analyst or security analyst. All of these challenges that you'll see will list the task that was being performed when you solve that challenge. My recommendation for all players, after you complete the season, you get this report, take a look at the report and really kind of look at the way that the challenges are being described in the language, because when you go and apply for a job, this is going to be what helps set you apart. Because the first thing a recruiter or hire manager is going to do if you apply to be a SOC analyst, for example, is kind of ask you, hey, what do you know about being a SOC analyst? What skills do you have? And this report provides you with some of the language to describe what you can actually do, as well as those examples, right? If you have never done anything like being a SOC analyst, then the experience for NCL is going to give you that experience, as well as some of the language that you can use to kind of explain what you did and kind of impress the hiring manager with your practical capabilities. Now, moving on to different resources to help you prepare. I mentioned before the practice gymnasium. So we will have past challenges with those different guides to help you prepare. That's available throughout the entire season. We also do live webinars throughout the season, and we have past recordings as well. So if you go to the National Cyber League YouTube channel, you can go through and look at all those different past recordings. The webinars and those recordings are also embedded in the guides within the gymnasium, so you can access it that way as well. And then we also have the Trove, the Cyber Skyline Trove. You can access all these different resources from the NCL website, but on the Trove is going to be kind of the written tutorials and guides. A lot of those already in the gym, but we also have some additional guides that are not specific to gym content that are kind of more general as well. And then some quick things to know as a beginner. I can see here in the chat we have Jasmina mentioning that they're a new player in here, so welcome. Christian also new. Oh, we got a lot of new players. Okay, I'm just going through the chat now. A lot of new players. So these will we like to see. Yeah, Jen's clapping. We like to see all the new players. I'd like to give this advice to all the new players. And I know that NCL is a competition. We have a leaderboard. The big thing that I really suggest with everyone is to set your own personal goals, especially as a beginner. You are going to be competing with people who have years of experience of having done this. And if all you do is compare yourself to those people, it's not going to be a fun experience for you, right? So set your own personal goals. You want to measure yourself based on your own personal success. And then, people are going to do their own things. Don't fret about that. Focus on your own personal goals. Something I like to suggest for new players is choose one topic of particular interest of yours, and then say, hey, I want to, solve maybe, 50% of the points or 50% of the challenges within this category. That might be a good personal goal. If you don't have one in particular, maybe just say, hey, I want to solve one challenge from every category. And that could be another thing that you could do. So focus on those personal goals. The next thing as well is to focus on scoring points rather than accuracy. So the way that the ranking system works is that whoever has the most points wins. If there's a tie, then accuracy is used as a tiebreaker, which means that as long as you have one more point than the next person, you will be ranked ahead of them. So rather than kind of being super paranoid about getting everything exactly correct and not making any mistakes, it's usually better to just kind of make some educated guesses. You have multiple tries per question. So focus on scoring the points rather than being too paranoid about making a single mistake. Oftentimes, if you can get it down to like 2 different options, 3 different options, you're better off just kind of submitting all of them and seeing which one you got right. And then you also end up learning by getting that validation of like, oh yeah, that is the correct answer. I can kind of figure out why the other 2 options weren't correct once you know what the correct answer is. Number 3, take good notes. A lot of times people kind of just like blaze through and then you get to the end and you kind of forget what happened. Taking notes is a good way to kind of help you retain that information and like identify what areas you still want to focus on, right? You can look at those notes and say, okay, based on my notes here, I was a little bit weak in these different topics. Maybe I want to take another class that covers that, or go watch some YouTube videos about that. It's really important to help you kind of on your journey to develop your skills. And the last thing here before I pass it over to Jen and Kiwi, remember to take breaks. I think it is very easy for people to kind of get tunnel vision and say like, I'm going to solve this question no matter what. And then they, next thing you know, it's like 3, 4 in the morning and you are exhausted and you haven't eaten dinner yet. Make sure you take breaks. We're all human. Get some sleep, take a shower, eat some food. You want to make sure that you're well rested. Oftentimes, a lot of people discover during NCL kind of like the need to just take that break and how that really helps improve productivity. I know it can sound counterproductive to take a break and be like, well, I'm not working on it anymore, but sometimes your brain just needs a reset and you need to give that space to yourself. So those are kind of like the big highlights here. I'll pass it over to Jen and then Kiwi. If you guys wouldn't mind giving a quick intro about yourself and some of the advice that you'd recommend. So Jen?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Yeah, thanks for joining. I'm really excited, especially for our new and definitely for our returning players. Thanks for coming back. I'm actually also a former NCL player, and it's really fun now to design the game. So I'm a career changer, and I did NCL in community college with and my team was a bunch of people who were a lot younger than me. So I remember my first time very vividly. It was a big experience also because, you're busy with classes. I know many of you all are busy with other things. So it's hard to take out a whole weekend to do a whole competition, but I guarantee this is going to be worth it. The things that you're doing in class are really going to help you also in the game, and the game's going to push your learning so much further. I definitely love like all the things that you pointed out here, Franz. I just want to highlight like keeping good notes. If this is your first time, like take the time to just come up with a process of how you're going to approach each challenge and organize things, create folders, like do a whole, MKDIR and do like a bunch of different folders. Do a folder for each topic, open source, cryptography, forensics, et cetera, and within each folder, make a folder for each challenge, put the files in, like be diligent and keep things organized, because you might solve a challenge really fast, but then like come Sunday, you're like, oh wait, I need to go back. And if all your files are disorganized on your desktop, you're just going to be lost and flustered. And oh my gosh, I have to re-download this. It's going to be a lot. So keep things organized, keep track of what you've worked on, and it's going to help you in the future as well. And, I definitely have a lot of great tips in terms of first time. If this is your first time, Franz mentioned like setting goals. Specifically, what would those goals be? I don't know. Maybe you hit like most of the easies, and if you get one medium, like, hey, it's a party, like you did your darn thing. So yeah, happy to answer any other questions you all have. I'm gonna pass it over to Kiwi. I know they've got really great experience to share, so go for it, Kiwi.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, welcome. I really, really hope you guys have fun. I am Kiwi. I am one of the challenge engineers at Cyber Skyline, and I make a lot more of the exploitation and enumeration, web challenges, etc. My recommendations for you are to look up write-ups. Find CTFs that had similar challenges and look up write-ups that other people have written about their experience solving a forensics challenge or a web analysis or a pwn challenge. And try to like at least understand the process that they're going through. Our challenges aren't going to be the same as other competitions, but the general premises are the same across the security field. Try to find write-ups on vulnerabilities, not necessarily just CTFs, but also vulnerabilities found in software. It is really, really supportive, especially if this is your first year, to not fall down the rabbit hole of like 15 Wikipedia pages, 8 YouTube videos, and then like 16 other tabs of different things. It's a lot more effective to look up the processes that people used because they'll explain alternative processes. They might say like, for this web challenge, I use Burp Suite, but I didn't really need it. You can just make Postman requests, or you can just make requests using your browser because it wasn't that complicated. You can be like, okay, cool. Now I know about Burp Suite. Now I know that I can use Burp Suite for web challenges to send requests, for example. The other piece of advice that I would hand is don't get attached to being the best of the best, especially if you're very, very new. If you're used to being at the top of everything, don't be attached to outperforming everyone, and don't compare yourself to others, right? Compare yourself to yourself. Look at yourself last season if you've completed before, and look at yourself this season. Say, okay, I've had improvement. I've had a lot more success in log analysis, and I wanted to work on that. And figure out what it is you want to improve. At the end of this competition, figure out what it is that you want to improve, create action items for yourself, and then check in with yourself next season and see if you had that growth that you wanted to see. Right, that's it for me. I think it's time for questions, yeah?
Yeah, we'll switch over to questions here. I don't see a whole lot in the chat, so if you have any questions for us this season, go ahead and ask them. The first one I'm seeing here asking, how tough is the learning curve for someone who's new and has no experience whatsoever? It's an interesting one to answer because I feel like sometimes people will say they have no experience whatsoever, but they don't actually realize that they have a lot of useful skills already. I think that most people, if you're coming in with some basic understanding of technology, computer science, or IT, even if you don't have any specific cybersecurity skills, a lot of those general critical thinking skills and tech skills are very widely applicable. The big thing I'd mention would be like the open source intelligence category, which everyone likes to call the just Google it category. But like truly, this is the category where it's just like finding out information online, right? So it's not like you need to have extensive experience with all these different command line tools and like a lot of like classroom learning to do well in that category. A lot of it is actually just kind of practical experience of like doing research and finding different tools to help you out online. So that is pretty helpful. I'd also recommend just like, if you want to avoid a steep learning curve, go through the categories in the order that we kind of listed in the platform. So open source intelligence is the first category. Then after that is like cryptography. And so if you know how to do, some basic math and use some online tools, then cryptography is like a next like easy category where like you start off with primarily just like doing number conversions. And that type of stuff is something that you don't need a lot of experience with. If you go and you jump straight to like doing the numeric exploitation and web application security stuff, that might be a pretty steep curve. But if you kind of go in the order that we kind of presented in, that might be the best way to go there. Just do it in the order.
I might also add, like, there are many ways to reduce the learning curve before the competition, because the individual game doesn't really start until when? The end of October, right? So you got a month. You can take some time, go through the gym, and you can get pretty decent, honestly, going through the gym. Just looking through the write-ups and understanding the tools and recognizing the challenges is gonna be a huge boost. So if you have some time, I would go through maybe, at least 1 or 2 challenges in the gym, a night or every other day before the individual game, and I think that'll be really, really helpful.
Another
Yeah,
question.
you guys covered it really well. Just next question is: does try hack me simulations do try hack me simulations help prepare for NCL? Yes and no. The learning curve is still there, but the experience that you gain from doing try hack me simulations improves your skill level. We don't work with or in parallel with try hack me. So they make their own simulations. We make our own NCL challenges. Sometimes there's crossover, sometimes they're not. It really depends on what you did. And the same is true for what is it called? Hack the Box or Pico CTF or any of these other things. That being said, the more experience you have, and I'm assuming you're talking about the SOC simulator here, the more experience that you have looking at logs, the more experience you have analyzing reports, etc., the more effective you might be whenever the competition times comes. That being said, if it's different from the Try Hack Me simulations, don't be surprised.
Question: are there any fees after registration for using Gymnasium? No, there are no. Once you register, that covers the whole season. It covers the gym, individual game, team game, practice game. All of that is included. Although the fee is $45, just because I see they typed in 35 here, so just wanted to clarify that. We try to make it simple. Everything's all included in one shot. Next question here. When do we get our scouting report? So the scouting reports come out about a week after the end of the team game. So you're going to get both your individual and team game scouting reports at the same time. I know oftentimes we get a lot of people asking for for their individual game scouting report before the team game. It's like, no, sorry, it's not. We do it all in one shot. So expect it to be available because we're in the fall season. So usually we have it out like right before Thanksgiving, like the week before Thanksgiving is when the scouting report comes out. See, any other questions? Aiming to do behavioral, to become a behavioral analyst. What areas will help hone my skills to look more hireable? Ooh, that is this like insider threat? I don't know how much behavioral analysis and cybersecurity overlap? Is that
I was
insider
thinking
threat?
about this because I think this is super interesting. I'm actually reading a book right now called The Art of Cyber Warfare that goes into a lot of this. I think, Brenda, you'd probably really like it. It sounds like, and it sounds like maybe you might get into, I think, with behavioral analysis, sounds a lot of it like social engineering, but also maybe attribution to some extent, right? So I think looking at, web and enumeration might be a lot of fun for you, and log analysis as well. Maybe even to a certain extent cryptography, but that could depend on the challenge. And I guess since you all are here tonight, maybe we can divulge, like, we know a lot of what's going to be in the individual game right now. So I can say that with confidence that maybe there might be a challenge or two in there that might be interest to you.
Yeah, to add to that, this is also a really interesting question for me because when I was in university, my double major was in criminology and computer science. Brenda, yeah, it really depends if you're going down the psychology or sociology route. If you want to go down the sociology route, look into criminology. The areas of NCL that will support you in honing your skills, in my opinion, specifically OSINT, part of behavioral analysis is actually collecting information about individuals and about behavior of individuals online. Web exploitation could be one of those things that, it's like almost like a 50-50 depending on your interest. And then log analysis and scanning might also support you here. When a malware developer, for example, when we're talking about log analysis, develops an exploit, when a malware developer develops a payload, part of how they think is actually stored in the development of the malware, right? Their thought processes is stored in the way the code works. The way that their brain wants things to happen is stored in the code because they're a developer and developers code differently depending on their psychological profiles. So exploitation, enumeration, and log analysis might be supportive for you. E&E will let you look at how the developers coded the program, and log analysis will let you look at the results of the program execution. It really comes down to what part of the psychology, cybersecurity crossover you want to look into, but that's just some food for thought there.
All right, next question. For the challenges that make use of Linux terminal virtual machines, how do we access them from the Cyber Skyline webpage? Oh, that's a fun one. Okay, so yeah, the ones that give you a terminal environment, they are like directly in the browser. You don't have to like download any additional software or anything. It like runs straight in your browser. So that's very convenient. We will typically have a handful, like in individual game, usually like between 3 and 5 different challenges that have one of those like terminals. I think for team game, we typically have like more like 5 or 6. Yeah, for those you could do it. It's directly within your browser. A lot of the challenges as well, even the ones that give you like the terminal environment, if there are any additional like log files or binaries associated with that, you can also, if those are available, you can download them and run them on your own machine as well. So depending on the challenge, you might get that optionality. But yeah, you don't have to worry about like installing anything special to gain access to those. They will be side by side with the challenge, like you see with any of the other challenges. Okay. What other resources other than the gymnasium can I use to study? So I think this might be a good time to kind of go over any additional like learning resources and tools that you might all suggest that, just that are out there online, general resources. What do you all suggest?
I mean, my standard suggestions, you have Pico CTF, Pico Gym, Hack the Box. Try Hack Me is very 50-50, but they tend to do good work. Look at what CTFs are going to be running in the next month and compete in them, right? If you go to ctftime.org, I believe, yep, ctftime.org, you can see a list of upcoming CTFs. Look at the ones that people are actively signing up for, maybe ones that people aren't, and then figure out which one of those you want to practice with. And when you do them, don't be attached to getting everything right, but use it as practice for NCL. Use it as a way to prepare for NCL. And the best part about it is that then you can, at the end of that CTF, you can then look at the write-ups. You can look at the write-ups that were made about that CTF and you say, oh, okay, I struggled on this reverse engineering one because I didn't understand this part of it. And this write-up helped me. And that might support you further down whenever you compete in NCL. Beyond that, Pwn.college, amazing resource. It's really good starting from 0 to hero. If you complete all of Pwn College, you are probably solid enough to get most entry level, if not like medium level jobs in the field. And the best part about it is if you find the Pwn College folks at conferences, they will give you belts. They will give you like a white belt, yellow belt, blue belt, etc. And they will belt you and there will be a belting ceremony and everything if you go to a conference that they're going to.
I think those are like really good if you have a lot of time to go ahead and investigate resources. So like if I have a whole couple days during the week to spend on Try Hack Me or doing training, 1,000% do all the things that Kiwi just said. If you're watching this on YouTube or whatever, like go ahead, rewind it and make sure you take notes because they're legit really great. And they're going to help you. But they might not exactly help you with every challenge. They're not going to line up perfectly like Kiwi's mentioned before. So what are some other things that you can do? Let's say you don't have a lot of time. Maybe, if you're doing some coursework, your books are actually really useful. There's a lot of things I know since I took mine in community college, I did the NCL. The networking books were really helpful to understanding what's going on when I do the network traffic analysis. I didn't really have that experience. I came into NCL not knowing a lot of stuff, and just understanding like how packets are formatted and where the data was super helpful in order to be like, oh, look, the flag is hidden in one of these. How about that? Like, who would have thought it would be in the data? Like, let's think about that. So I think, you can also look to your own coursework in some ways. Having a great understanding of Linux is super helpful. Understanding, Nmap and the different options. And those are things that you can look up on your own time and, take time to practice. So don't be afraid to also look, if you're doing, coursework, you're in college or high school, look to some sources maybe you already have.
And yeah, something I'd add to that is I think NCL and CTFs as a whole are not really something that you can study for. It's not exactly like a standardized exam. So it's not like you can say, okay, let me do the practice problems at the end of the textbook and then I'll be prepared for the exam. I say probably the best way to prepare is to develop a lot of good critical thinking skills that will help you on the fly. So it's intentional within the NCL competition. And this is a thing that we get feedback on from players all the time, especially beginners, where they're like, hold on a second. There was stuff in the competition that wasn't in the gym. And that's intentional, right? Because when you go and you start working in cybersecurity, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you will see on the job that definitely was not in your coursework. And that's just part of the job, is that technology keeps changing. You'll have new software, new protocols all the time. And so the real important skill to develop is the skill of being able to learn things on the fly and have really good critical thinking abilities to kind of navigate those situations. So big things that I would kind of recommend would be going and doing kind of your own side projects. I see a lot of people who are also learning how to code. And so trying to, take an idea that you had from solving a challenge. And I know a lot of players will try to do this. They're like, okay, I did it by myself manually. Can I write a program to automate, solving it for me the next time I see that challenge? And when you go and try to do that, you really have to fundamentally understand those concepts in order to kind of develop a tool that will automatically solve it for you. And so I feel that's a good way to kind of learn and really solidify a lot of those concepts. But it's very different than just okay, let me just go do more practice problems. I'll be good for the exam. If all you're doing is kind of the repetitive, I follow the sequence, it's going to be very difficult to adapt. So yeah, that's a big thing I'd recommend is develop those critical thinking skills. All right, another question. Wanting to know the exact duration and time of the competition. How many hours will I have to complete the challenges? So for both the individual and the team game, they start at 1 p.m. Eastern on Friday. So for the individual game, that'd be Friday, October 24th. And they end at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Sunday, so October 26th. You have that entire duration, right? So I know people, they're busy, they've got, work, they've got school and all of that. You can drop in, drop out at a point in time. So you can say, hey, I got an hour on Friday. All right, you got an hour on Friday. Maybe you have a couple hours on Saturday. Maybe you have a couple hours on Sunday. You have that full flexibility. They're really there really is no penalty for you kind of like needing to pick and choose how you want to spend your time. I will caveat that by saying that in the event that there's a tie in points and accuracy, whoever completes first breaks the tie. But also there is like almost nothing, like very, very few, except like, maybe top 5, top 10 on the leaderboard, very few circumstances when you're having to do a tie break on points and accuracy. So yeah, you don't have to really sweat it. If you got other things going on, that's totally okay. Don't feel kind of pressure to do everything in one sitting. And I honestly, I wouldn't recommend trying to do everything in one sitting. That's probably not very helpful for you, or healthy, actually. All right. Are there challenges you can do on a phone? Do you need PC for all of them? So doing them on the phone could be tricky. Yeah. Mainly, I mean, you can actually load a lot of the site on the phone. You have so little space on the phone to like do much with. And like, I mean, most people are kind of saying, hey, I want 2, 3, 4 monitors to work with when they're doing challenges. So trying to do it on a little phone can be tricky, but like, technical limitations primarily are like, if there are tools that you need to solve the challenge, those tools might not run on your phone. Not really a limitation of the platform, the site itself, but like, you needing the right tool for the job. I don't know. I don't know if there's any other advice on doing NCL on a phone.
I mean, last fall, I think I made a challenge and ended up having an application that you could download to solve it. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe your phone could be the thing that helps you solve the challenge, and not the PC. So it could go either way, I think.
I have heard claims, and I've seen it in our analytics. There are some people, and by some I mean like 2 or 3, that will try to do NCL on a Samsung smart fridge. I don't understand it, but like, God bless, like if you want to go for it, you could go for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have done some of the challenges for fun on an old phone I have running with Kali NetHunter. I have solved an OSINT challenge on the fridge, and I've solved some like other challenges. I don't recommend it if you're somebody that like, you don't have the time to do all of an NCL competition, and that most, if not all, the material in NCL, and you're just trying to challenge yourself and like add additional difficulty. Maybe try to pull out a phone and do it. That can be like once you've 100%ed a game, you go back and you do it with harder difficulty. Do it on a Raspberry Pi. Do it on a phone. Do it on the Samsung Smart Fridge. See how far you can get. But if it's your first time, you're going to suffer if you try to do it on the phone.
All right, another question. Could this competition help get started with bug hunting, or is that field a little bit more advanced? I actually think for bug hunting in particular, that's going to be like the web application security category. Like I'm pretty sure almost all, I don't think I've seen very many bug hunting bug bounty programs for like executable applications. Like typically that's going to be a web application. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely web app challenges. Kiwi, I don't know. You've made some web app challenges. How do you feel the realism is between those challenges and bug bounty?
So a lot of the web app and even E&E challenges are representative of like engagements and things that I've seen in the wild. Fundamentally speaking, it can get you started with bug bounty hunting. Realistically, a lot of bug bounty hunting is less exploiting applications. So E&E is not that big a part of bug bounty hunting. A lot of it is like, oh, they didn't update, they didn't patch like a specific plugin that they're using on their website. And now that because it's behind, I can use that to gain access to like some database. A lot of bug hunting requires less brain stretching and just requires persistence. So web challenges are a good way to like look at that. Look at some of the crypto challenges. They might help you find some insecure, like somebody rolling their own crypto in some white box testing stuff. But really, you're going to want to look at website. Sorry, you're going to want to look at web challenges and maybe E&E. If you want to specifically prepare for bug bounty hunting, if the source code is provided for any web challenge, don't look at it. Real life bug bounty hunting, a lot of the time, you don't have like the source code for some of the backend database stuff. You kind of have to figure it out. And that increases the difficulty quite a bit.
Oh, and Kiwi, since you mentioned as well, scanning, I think. Yeah, that's probably another good category. All right. What would be the best way to make use of the scouting reports that we receive? Okay, this is a great question. I'm glad you asked it because a lot of times people are not entirely sure how to do this well. The number one thing that I would mention with the scouting report, you are primarily going to use it when you start talking to a hiring manager. I think I mentioned this earlier. Look at the exact way that the challenges are being described in the scouting report, because you want to use as many of those real world skills and terms when you're talking to a hiring manager. So if you go and say, hey, I did this CTF challenge where I got a flag, that's not giving enough information. Or oh, I pwned a website and I got a flag, right? That's probably not enough detail that's going to show a hiring manager that you have the skills that they're looking for. So when you look at the way that we specifically write out the descriptions of the challenges, we are specifically trying to use language that will resonate with the hiring manager. So it's a good reference for you to look at before you go into interview, and then you can use that language when you go and talk during the interview. Another big thing is that people will put their scouting reports on their resumes. I think this is a great thing to do. Make sure you do it correctly. People will oftentimes put their ranking on how they did an NCL and then maybe a link to their scouting report, because you can also give a link to your scouting report. That is going to be pretty limiting in terms of how much it's going to set you apart, because whether it's NCL or Try Hack Me or Hack the Box, there are so many people who are doing all these different activities, and they will say, hey, I'm top 1%. Somehow everyone is managing to be top 1% and Try Hack Me or Hack the Box. I don't know how it's possible. The math just doesn't seem to be mathing on this one. But what will happen is that the numbers will start to kind of look very samey to the recruiters that are looking at your resume. Can they tell the difference, practically speaking, by someone who is number 7 on the leaderboard versus someone who's number 17 on the leaderboard versus someone who's number 70 on the leaderboard when there's 5,000 people on the leaderboard? Practically speaking, these are just numbers that are going to be kind of not easy to internalize to the recruiters. And so what's more important is actually to kind of put NCL as an extracurricular or some additional experience on your resume, and then use that same language from the scouting report to describe what you did within NCL. So maybe highlight the top 2 or 3 challenges that you solved at NCL that you're most proud of, that were most challenging for you, and put that in the extracurricular section of your resume. Because then when the recruiter's looking through, they're doing a lot of keyword searching. They're looking for how people are describing the way that they solve problems. Doing it in that way, where you describe the activity rather than just putting a ranking or a score, is going to help the recruiter and the hiring manager understand a lot better versus just the number, right? So that's another thing, is that even if you don't have, like I said, somehow the math isn't math. There's no way everyone is top 1% and Try Hack Me and Hack the Box. There's no way. It's to me, it's less important what your actual ranking is and more the way that you describe that experience. And so even if you're, not the best ranking within NCL, put it on your resume. Just don't put the ranking. Just describe your experience and what you did, and that will be just as useful when you're applying for a job.
I think Kiwi's advice earlier was really great and is key here as well with the scouting reports. Looking up write-ups online and understanding how they're kind of written, and making your own write-ups private of how you completed a challenge would also be kind of helpful to show a hiring manager or just somebody, be here's the challenge, because they don't know what necessarily what NCL is or what challenge exactly you worked through, but being able to communicate and articulate and how you solved it is going to be super valuable in any job that you go to.
All right, question here from Mindy, and I think we've got like 10 minutes or so left for questions before we wrap up for today. Mindy's asking if the system recognizes who completes questions in team game. Okay, so or is the system truly set up to record the results of the team? So the system does keep track of who is specifically submitting the answer. That does not get displayed in the results about who submitted the answer. So if you go and look at any of the challenges in the sidebar for each of the challenge, in the sidebar, there will be a button to look at the submission history, and it will tell you who on your team submitted each answer, whether it be correct or incorrect. So you can see if you're trying to do your own bookkeeping and figure out like who submitted what, you can see who submitted it. We intentionally don't indicate who submitted what answer in the scoring because sometimes that could be misinterpreted. Like we've seen some situations where coaches might be trying to assign grades based on who submitted how many questions and challenges within the team game. And we know practically speaking that you might have, some teams will coordinate and they say, hey, one person submits all the answers so that we don't have a crazy free for all. And then it skews the way that the data looks. So it is recorded by the system. If you want to know what it is, as a member of the team, you can go through all of the questions and you can look at the answer submission history and you can see who submitted it. But we are intentionally not having that be prominent in the results. The coaches do have a breakdown where they can see how many points were earned by each player, but it doesn't go into detail in terms of okay, person A solved these questions and person B solved those questions. It's mainly there as kind of more of an activity, participation thing rather than trying to do strict attribution. And then I'll take this other question, which is very similar as well. Can I see my correction after making an attempt on the challenges? So if you go to that same sidebar, if you made some incorrect submissions, you will see the incorrect submissions as well as your correct submission when you eventually get that. So you can see all of those there. The system will also prompt you. This is another thing we see people doing. If you try to submit the same answer that you previously submitted, the system will give you a little warning and it'll be are you sure? You submitted this before and it was wrong last time. Are you sure you want to submit the same thing again? Generally speaking, if you get that prompt, you probably do not want to submit it again. If we do make updates to challenges and say because sometimes it'll be the case that someone discovers a technically correct answer that we didn't identify before, we will retroactively go and mark all submissions that are correct as correct. You won't have to manually resubmit. The system will handle it for you. So that's there is a way to go see your past submissions, and I would not recommend resubmitting something you've already submitted. Okay. So what helped you get over first-time nerves? I feel like this is a good question. What do y'all think?
First-time nerves for NCL. I think there's just a lot. It's a lot of challenges, and there's very little time. At least for me, at least when I did it the first time, there's a lot going on around you, and of course, there's still school going on that you might also need to do. So I think going through the practice game, the very first time I did the practice game, and that was helpful to be oh, I see what it's going to kind of be like. I got it. Okay, it's kind of like the gym, but there's no hints and I have to figure it out on my own. Got it. All right. I think that did help ease things a little bit. And I also had a team, a team does help out when you get to the team part. I think it gets more fun.
I think the team also helps with the nerves, even not during the team game. I don't know what it is. I'm the type of person that I'll play a video game that's single player, And when you have like a companion in the game, it like sets me at ease, even though I know it's not a real person. Like I know it's a bot. But like having people that, you know, like even an individual game, if you say, hey, like let's work on it at the same time, and you know, there's a lot of shared experience, and especially after the game, that's like something you can go and talk about and have fun with that. I think that's pretty helpful as well.
My advice to you is also like figure out what you have nerves about. Is it being as good as other people on your team? Is it performance? Because in the end, like the intention of this is to learn and have fun. If you're like nervous over doing well, it's your first time. Unless you've had a lot of experience with a lot of different CTFs, comparing yourself to anyone that's done this for a while is not going to work out well for you.
I will add to that because I know, especially like in the security community, there's, you know, there are some places where it's like hostile to beginners, right? Like, you know, calling someone a newbie and stuff like that. I mean, being a newbie just means that you're new. Like everyone starts from somewhere. Everyone's a beginner at some point in time, right? So, like even the people who are doing way better than you are, they had to be a beginner before they got to that point in time. And so just like giving yourself that space and kind of like acknowledging that, like, yeah, I'm a beginner, I'm not going to get everything, and that's okay. And just don't treat NCL like it's a class exam or something like that. Maybe this will help with the nerves. The average score in NCL is about a 33%, which, you know, like that's why you don't treat it like a standard exam, because that's a failing score in a standard exam, and NCL is not a standardized exam, right? Like we specifically design it for people all different skill levels. So we have the easy, the hard, the medium, and the hard level challenges. Most people doing NCL are beginners, and that's why the average score is like a 33%, because on average people are doing the easy level challenges and not as many medium and hard level challenges. And so, yeah, I think like if you kind of set that as better expectation there, especially if you're beginning, you're like, oh, I only got like 20% or 25%. Knowing that the average is like a 33, I think kind of helps a lot there. So, yeah, hopefully that that helps with your nerves. All right. Does NCL help find strengths and discover strengths and weaknesses? I would like to think so. I mean, that's like the big focus of the scouting report and all the report, like the analytics that we provide you all. It's really meant to be kind of like helping you. To me, I see it as kind of like a guide or a map for your education and your development in cybersecurity, right? It's a snapshot of like, okay, I'm at this point in time. Here are my areas of like, I'm not doing so well in this category. I am doing pretty well in these categories. That gives you that knowledge, and then from there you can kind of like make decisions on how you want to prioritize your learning. I'd also mention as well that like just because you didn't do well in a category doesn't mean that's necessarily a bad thing. Like if that's not a category that you want to pursue as a career and you don't have an interest in it, you could just leave it as is. You don't have to be perfect in everything. So I don't know if like Jen, you kind of were using NCL as you were like going through school. How helpful did you feel NCL was in helping you kind of like find strengths and weaknesses?
I think it showed me that I was doing really good in class because I was able to take what knowledge I had and apply it to something else and something, you know, situations that I hadn't approached before. So I don't know that it told me my direct strengths other than I was able to solve challenges and it gave me confidence, you know. And I think in a industry that has prevalent imposter syndrome, confidence is like a awesome thing to have. So 1,000%.
I'll also tell this like quick side story while we're like on this topic with like, how do you deal with the nerves and imposter syndrome and those sorts of things. This is known by some people in the community, but it's, we get so many new players every single season that they might not all know the backstory. When I was a student, I originally did NCL my freshman year. And then my sophomore year, I was part of the team that was running NCL. So like I went from like doing the challenges to making the challenges while I was still in college, like a year after. You can do a lot of different things if you could just kind of put yourself out there and try. And again, always kind of like keep in mind your own personal goals. I kind of just mention that because sometimes people feel like, oh, I need to have years and years and years of experience before I can say that, like, I know cybersecurity or something like that. Like you can do a lot. And yeah. What else do we have here?
We have two more questions and we have 4 minutes. So we should try to set 2 minutes for each question.
All right, let's take this one.
Are there any considerations for adding emerging technologies to Cyber Skyline in the near future, such as AI, blockchain, and ICS-related challenges? I can pick this up if you guys want me to. It's pretty...
Go for it.
Cool. So in terms of AI, we are playing around with an AI category. The reality is that if you see AI, it's not going to be prompt injection and prompt hijacking. It's going to be actual fundamental mathematical attacks on AI algorithms. And I promise you that's not as fun as you think it is. In terms of blockchain, some of our OSINT challenges are blockchain related. No, not really. Setting that up is very exhaustive and takes a lot of time and effort. ICS related challenges, we've had a couple. We might have a couple in the future. I will say, I'm going to spoil this a little bit. There might be a chance that you see some really, really old technologies this season or next season that are still very, very relevant, and people forget that you can attack them.
Well, I'll be looking for Richard's performance on the one challenge that I know that has some stuff with one of these 3 things, and I will not spoil it.
Okay.
I will say as well with AI challenges, quick reminder for people, like when you're using AI to participate in the competitions at NCL, just make sure that you're not using it to replace your critical thinking, because sometimes people will just like copy and paste a question to AI. That's not going to work with a lot of the harder questions. It might work with some of the easier questions, but if you do that, you're not learning anything, and you're kind of defeating the whole point of doing it. So, yeah.
Yeah,
just
a thing we've already tried to solve it with AI.
All right, and then last question. Debating between a master's degree in computer science or cybersecurity. I have opinions on this. I think you should do the computer science one and learn InfoSec and cybersecurity as a hobby.
I second that.
I guess I third that. I think my general thing on this is that computer science is a broader like domain, and so it gives you more flexibility with your career. If you do specifically like a cybersecurity degree, it's going to be much more narrow, and then employers are going to look at that. And even if you have a lot of like skills outside of cybersecurity that go into computer science, and you're looking for a more computer science related job, you have a computer science degree, you can do that. You got a cybersec degree, you can't do that. That's just kind of how employers are looking at it. So yeah, you just get more optionality, because people will hire CS degrees to do cybersecurity. They really don't do much of the reverse.
Yeah, and then the other thing to point out, computer science, you're going to go deeper. You're going to learn a lot more intense stuff, and that'll support you. At the same time, keep in mind that if your focus is cybersecurity, keep your focus on cybersecurity, and do that. Join a CTF club at your university. Go find ways to learn cybersecurity from your professors. Maybe one of them does research on cybersecurity, etc.
All right. Well, we are now at the end of the hour. So thank you all for your amazing questions. We hope you're just as excited as we are for this season. If you have any questions to follow up here, we're posting the link to the Discord in the chat there. That's probably the best way for you to get additional answers from the rest of the community as well, especially if you're looking for advice and guidance. That's probably the best place to go. If you have like technical questions about like the platform and like registration, stuff like that, please go open a support ticket. Our team can help out that way. But yeah, with that, hope you all have a great evening and a great fall season. So thanks everyone. Take care.
Woo! Good luck.